paddy field. About 1 kilometer from my house is Laut Cina, the Selat Melaka. So if the situation permits, next time you can come to Skin Charge. So today's lecture is about expressive structures. Okay, next slide. Thank you. All right, my dear student, I think this statement, if you still remember, I've delivered it during the structure 1 when you were in the second semester. Because when I see some names of the student, most of you quite familiar to me. You can see Natasha, Pijati, Aima, Hafiz, Aida just now, and many. So I presume you were in my class during my structure 1. So this one, I just want to recap from the beginning of that lecture, overall thinking about structure, how we perceive structure in our own eyes, the perspective of architects, you know, because when laymen see at the structure, they see differently. When engineers see structure, they see differently, they interpret differently, they function structure as differently. So for us architectural students, the overall thinking of structure is that without structure, the building cannot stand. So they can be structure without architecture. So as we can see in many structure around us, for example, bridge, reservoir, retaining wall, all these are structure, but there is no architecture. As well as in machine, you know, all are structure, but no architecture in it. In architecture, whatever we build, we have to have structure. Without structure, the architecture cannot stand. So when we build architecture, we build together with structure. And in architecture, when we build something, we encompass together with beauty, what we call it as aesthetic. So they can be aesthetic without architecture. They can be aesthetic without architecture. As in many painting, there are a lot of aesthetic in it, but no architecture. Okay, we see beauty things, aesthetic things in plants, view. Okay, those are beauty things. Those are aesthetic, but there is no architecture. Aesthetic feeling is one of the basic needs of humanity. So in architecture, one of the things that we have to have in our mind is about aesthetic. And structure is part of architecture. We cannot neglect structure because as I said earlier, without structure, building cannot stand. And when we design, we have to think about the structure. So when architecture incorporates structure in our building, we have to incorporate not only structure, we have to incorporate beauty, we have to incorporate aesthetic, we have to incorporate something that is beauty. So I hope students can understand the overall thinking about structure in architecture. It's not just structure, but it's more than that. Okay, next please. Okay, when we use structure for architecture, basically the structure we can divide into 2 components. This is just to recap the whole concept of structure. There are 2 types of structure. One is load-bearing structure. The other one is skeleton structure. Okay, students, you have to remember 2 types of structure. What is load-bearing structure? Load-bearing structure, basically we put material on top of each other without any structure or any tertulang, any frame inside it. So from the slide here, you can see termite, how they build their nest, you know, from the mud. They just build on top of each other. Okay, you see the Prambanan architecture in Jogja, the one that on the right hand, top right hand picture. The one is Prambanan. If you remember, Borobudur also as well, you know, it is load-bearing structure. Load-bearing structure ni dia letakkan bahan satu kat bawah dan then dia timpa-timpa sampai ke atas ya. Berbeza dengan RC frame structure, there is reinforcement inside the structure. Load-bearing dia gunakan material tu sebagai dia punya structure lah. Okay, this is load-bearing structure. Next slide please. Okay, another example of load-bearing structures from previous architects, great ancient building. You can see the Colosseum here. These are all this another great example of load-bearing structure. I think the most famous one until now is a pyramid, is load-bearing structure. Also, in recent building, also you can find there are many still using the load-bearing structure. As I said just now, the load-bearing structure, if you push the material, you cannot see anything inside. It's just the material on top of each other. What I mean is that dia tak ada reinforcement dalam tu lah ya. They just use the weight of the material to make the structure. Okay, there are many forms. Actually, if you are creative, you can make a curvilinear, you can make dome, you can make fancy shape of architecture, like for example, barrel vault, dome, okay, pyramid, and curvilinear. So actually, load bearing, we mustn't say that it limits our creativity, but if you have idea, you can do many architecture. Next, please. Okay, that one is load-bearing architecture and load-bearing structure. The next one is a skeleton structure, or in other words, is post and beam structure. Post and beam structure we can find early in timber building. Okay, the post and beam structure or skeleton structure is very easy to understand. We just put two posts and then on top of the post there is a beam. That is what we call post and beam. And if you have a lot of this frame, post and beam for the entire building, we can call it as skeleton structure. And there are many examples in the world that use this skeleton structure in Malaysia as well. In Malaysia, if you go to Sri Menanti, you can see 4-story building of Istana Sri Menanti using post and beam timber structure. If you go to Kuala Kangsar, the Istana also was built using skeleton structure. You go to Scandinavian, there are a lot of building houses using timber or skeleton structure. In London, there is one famous building. It's a commercial building, more than 5-story, situated near Oxford Street. I think some of you maybe dah pergi. They call it Liberty Building. That one is the entire building was made using timber skeletal structure. Next, please. Okay, this is quite modern. As I said just now, an architect should have creativity, should innovate the understanding of structure, either load bearing or skeleton. Okay, these are some example of skeleton structure for the contemporary architecture. You can find a lot in the internet, whether it is proposal or real building. The one that I showed here, real building. So I think by now you can appreciate what are skeleton structure, what are load-bearing structure. Okay, thank you. Next. Another example, but this is not from timber. This is from steel, cyber texture in Mumbai. I think if I ask student what kind of structure they use, straight away you said that this is skeleton structure. This is not load bearing. Okay, next please. Okay, okay, come to this topic today, the expressive structures. Okay, my dear student, as I said just now, if you know the concept of structure and you want to integrate in your architecture, you mustn't let the structure just serve for its function. That is to support the floor, to span a distance, maybe to protect from the environment. I think you have to go more than that. You have to use structure as architecture, and you can express the structure. So here are some examples of structure whereby they express in terms of beauty. So I think one of the example that people know is the Bird's Nest Stadium in Shanghai. This one opened in 2000 during the Olympic, 1988, if I'm not mistaken. Can you see they depict the bird's nest and use as a stadium, and the bridge, the Golden Bridge in San Francisco, is one of the landmark in US. It's a nice bridge, not only to span a river, but as well as at the landmark. The roller coaster one, okay, the roller coaster ini macam alien punya building ya. But if you incorporate the architecture, it becomes a sculptural things as well lah. Another example is the bridge there. Dia macam robot sikit lah kan, because they use the post to support the bridge, and it become nice lah, become a landmark to a place. So anything that you build, if you incorporate aesthetic, it become more expressive, like it has more meaning, not just to serve the function. Okay, next please. Another example of how you use the structure to express, yeah, how you can use to express your idea. So whether it is a bridge, whether it is building, tower, reservoir, retaining wall, any structure actually, if you incorporate aesthetic, it becomes more expressive. Next please. Next, okay. I think everyone has pernah singgah dekat R&R Aikro or Sungai Buloh. There is a bridge connecting the other R&R. Okay, so you know the connecting bridge is just a bridge, and inside the bridge they use the space inside the bridge, inside the Warren Trust or whatever trust, you know, they use for a restaurant. So you have to remember whether it is a column, whether it is a beam or roof trusses. Actually, within the column, within the beam, within the trusses, there is space inside it, and you can use the space, and you can exaggerate the space looking at the structure, and it become more meaningful. Okay, here are some examples. What I mean by you can use the space inside the structures. Okay, next please. Next. All right. Okay, my dear student, there are, if you want to grasp the whole idea of structures, that the component of structures, there is one vertical structure, one is vertical structure, the other one is horizontal structure. Vertical structure normally are columns, horizontal structures normally are beams or floor. In between the vertical structures and horizontal structures are diagonal structures. Diagonal structures ni kalau dia lebih kepada, kalau dia lebih dia turun kepada 45 degrees, dia jadi horizontal structure lah. If it is more than 45 degrees, it become vertical structure. So actually structure, if you want to remember, ada dua komponen saja. There are only two components. One is vertical structure, the other one is horizontal structure. Okay, this is for skeleton structure. Tapi for load bearing structure dia tak ada lah. Load bearing is this kind of idea tak ada ya. So Frank Gehry for the building Bilbao, he used this idea of vertical and horizontal structure to make the building not like ordinary, because he understand that structure not only vertical, not only horizontal, but you can use the diagonal structure as well. So actually, if you use all these three component of structures, it become different from the ordinary structure, and it is more expressive lah. Okay, next. Okay, this one by Antoni Gaudi in Spain. If you go to Spain, you can see, okay, but different material they use. Some student may ask, either this one is load-bearing structure or skeleton structure. Okay, sometimes you can mix in one building, you can use load-bearing structure, and part of it you can use skeleton structure. So if you see in the middle of this church, they use skeleton structure, but in the periphery of the building, maybe they use, not maybe, they use the load-bearing structure. And Antoni Gaudi, they like to express the whole, even passage, you know, corridor, even the column, on top of the column, they like to express the things lah. And if you see, dia nampak macam apa, dia elaborate lah the whole feeling of the church. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, now I would like to give some example how architects, when they understand the concept of structure, okay, they can apply to their architecture differently. Like for example, this one. This is by Toyo Ito, if I'm not mistaken. Is it by this building is in Sendai, Japan. And if you study the column, it doesn't look like the ordinary column. And the column that you see here, like bubu, you know, bubu that catch fish. And if you arrange that bubu, many bubu, sangkarikan tu ya, dia boleh support weight actually. Okay, from that idea, you can see that you can see the column is not necessarily solid, and you can use the column. You can expose the column, become character of the building, or you can use the hollow section within the column to integrate with services. You can put lift inside it. You can put a staircase and many other services function. So you can integrate services together with your structure. You can integrate aesthetic together with the vertical structure. So this is applied in Sendai Library in Japan. Next, please. Next. Okay, this is how the concept of the building look like. Can you see this? The column. The column is skeleton column, and it's not solid column. And also the floor is just like waffle floor, so that it is lighter, not the solid one. The column is not solid. Even the floor is not solid as well. This is so that the building, you can go higher and less weight supported by the column. Okay, next. Okay, from different analysis, because the architect used computer X to experiment the idea. I think the idea works, and the building, you can see in Sendai, it works nicely lah. Okay, next please. Okay, I'm not very sure this one, whether it has been built or still in idea or not. But from the Sendai architectures just now, this has the same idea. Can you see the column, you know, instead of skeleton column, but this one is using a folded column. Okay, folded column to support all the floors, and it become nice. It become another piece of architecture. So again, my dear student, so you can express the column in many ways. Okay, last time the Roman architecture, they used Doric, Corinthian column, But now if you understand more than that, you can use skeleton column, you can use folded column like this one, and many other, or you can use bridge even, you know. Later I will show some example to represent the column, to express the column, not only just a solid column. Next, please. Okay, this is just the sketch, the initial idea, how the whole concept of the building want to be built. Okay, just the column, nice column, and then they put the horizontal things. Okay, next, please. Okay, nowadays we have a lot of computer application available. We can sit together with the computer engineer, or we can sit together with engineer to build our architecture. And can you see, you know, if we can reduce the solidness of the column, actually we can reduce the weight of the building. And if we reduce the weight of the building, actually we save some cost of the building, as well as when we reduce the weight of building, the building can go higher. So there are many advantages of reducing the weight. Okay, that's why nowadays there are many crazy ideas, expressive structures around because of the availability of the computer application. Next. Okay, this is what I mean. Zaha did. He used a lot of computer application to realize his idea, her idea. And come back to the component of structure that I mentioned earlier. A structure must not necessarily vertical or horizontal. We can combine the vertical and horizontal together, as performed by Zahadid building here. I think it's marvelous, marvelous concept. You cannot differentiate which one is wall, which one is floor, if you integrate with verticality and horizontally with architecture. Kalau tengok dekat sini, dia combine horizontal and vertical tu, dia macam benda yang satu yang as if macam satu movement lah ya. Okay, next. Another expressive structure by Zahadid from different building. She express bukan setakat vertical and horizontal, tapi combine between the two lah. Next, please. Okay, this one. I think if you have time, if student interested to know about this verticality and horizontality, dia tak ada differentiation between horizontal or vertical, you can study Zaha Hadid because Zaha Hadid like to use lines in her architecture. So he apply structure into architecture, not architecture into structure lah ya. Dia punya structure understanding tu dia apply kepada architecture, then dia combine semua sekali. So earlier than Zaha Hadid, famous architect like for example Richard Rogers also like to express the structure. Tapi kalau kita tengok Richard Rogers, the idea is now is look like ordinary lah. Richard Rogers like to expose structure or services, yeah, so that we can use it as part of architecture lah. For example, Pompidou Center. Pompidou Center situated in Paris. Earlier dia banyak controversial lah, ya, sebab around Paris banyak old building, and suddenly Richard Rogers built this Pompidou Center yang letak dia punya structure dan juga services kat luar. Dia very contrast dengan neighborhood building lah. But then it become a monument, nice monument now if you visit Paris. And so do other architecture, the rest in Europe built by Richard Rogers. Dia banyak express the structure. Tapi I think the expression tu sekarang lagi hebat lah bandingkan dengan dulu. This one in 1980s. Okay, next. Okay, many architects like to follow Zaha Hadid, how she articulate the verticality and horizontality into architecture. So if I think during first year you ada buat project on plane form kan. So actually if you apply into your architecture and then as shown in this slide, you can't tell which one is column, which one is floor, which one is wall. Everything intertwined together, you know, and become a piece of architecture. So because the technology, the computer can help you to visualize the whole thing. Last time maybe it's very difficult, and especially the engineers, you know, the engineers hate to design curvilinear structure, because when you architect provide curvilinear form of building, they have to use a lot of calculation in order to distribute the load from top of the building until the foundation. But now with the help of application, they just put the amount of load, and the apps will have to help the engineers to calculate how big is the floor, how big is the column, and in the end you can successfully have your idea being built later on. Okay, next. Okay, there are many types of structure available, not only post and beam. Like for example, this one, tensile membrane. Tensile is using cable to build your architecture. This is another approach that you can use to express your structure. I think if you Google around, just use the words tensile structure or tensile expressive architecture. There are a lot of examples available for you to study lah. Okay, from this understanding, you can apply to terminal, you can apply to museum, you can even apply to a small building or a shelter, bus stand, and many more. Okay, next please. Okay, another great architect that like to express structure, I think you can use as a reference is Santiago Calatrava. Santiago Calatrava is a person yang seangkatan dengan Richard Rogers, Norman Foster, semua lah. So he expressed the structures. Like for example, if you want to use column, so he tried to elaborate the column. If you want to use if he design bridge, he make sure the bridge look nice and become iconic to that place, become landmark to that place. And I tell you, student, if you put or if you incorporate the aesthetic into architecture, your architecture become more meaningful. Okay, next please. All right, these are a few more examples of expressive structure, whether you want to design pedestrian bridge, or whether you want to design a multi-purpose hall, terminal, mosque, and many more. Actually, if you have idea, you can express the structure that you use. So again, my dear student, I don't want you to design only space, nice form, but you neglect the component of structure whereby you can express it at the same time. And again, if you have time in architecture, when you design architecture, when you design building, building come together with structure, come together with interior, building come together with landscape. So if you have time, please produce your architecture as a package, not just, you know, a form, a space and form, and you forgot about how to express the structure. And also you forgot to put some nice element of landscape in, especially in front of the building, and as well as the interior, you know, maybe the lobby, maybe the living room, you know, put some nice interior architecture in it. If you combine all these things, architecture, landscape, interior, I believe, you know, your architecture has more meaning, has more quality, and you understand the whole architecture. Because architecture is everything. Everything is architecture. Next, please. Okay, this one still in progress, not built yet. Mumbai Convention Center. And can you see or not here? Where is the column? You can't see the column. Where is the floor? You can't see the floor. But they combine the whole thing, and it becomes something like people when they come and see, wow, what a nice venture, what a nice attempt, you know. So architect always create something new. If you just build ordinary building, then you become ordinary person. Okay, next please. Okay, this is curvilinear structure. Okay, curvilinear structure is you can use skeleton to make curvilinear structure. So you can use timber, you can use steel, you can use composite, okay, to make the curvilinear structure. And curvilinear structure, it's very expressive, you know, and very nice. Okay, next. Okay, this building depicts Kapalaya dekat Dubai. From outside, you can see the structure, how the three basically three columns support the floor of the building, and it looks like a shape. Inside it, you can see another expressive column that support the whole building lah. So, okay, don't say that aesthetic is not important. Aesthetic is important actually, yeah. So if you incorporate aesthetic, it become nice. People want to see. People want to take pictures, and it become nostalgic to their visit lah. Okay, next please. Okay, to me, this is quite expressive, and the architect understand the concept of structure very well. Okay, to the student, maybe why Dr. Sani want to show this building? Nothing so special. But to me, you know, if you see the concept of the structure, there you see the diagram on the left, not the picture. It was built using basically two columns, one on the left, one is on the right, and in the middle there ada macam apa yang nak kata ya, macam daching ya, macam daching. So they support the floor in between lah. So it's difficult for me to express here. I think if on the whiteboard I can show you how the structure support the floor of the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank. Kalau you tengok ya, student, if you see the whole building, yang tengah-tengah tu dia supported by that vertical line ya. Okay, I think if you have time, you have to study this thing, and in the end, dia express dah the building. Okay, next please. Okay, this is another bank, Bank of China. Dekat, this one is in Chicago. This one very simple. They use triangle space frame, and in the end, in between they put the component, and it become a tower lah. Okay, but why I want to show this one is the concept of frame structure. You can use that one as part of your entire building structure lah. Okay, next please. Okay, another type of structure that you can apply to architecture is using parabolic, hyperbolic, parabolic. What is parabolic structure? Parabolic structure is using the form of the building to strengthen the strength of the building. Yeah, using curve. Hyperbolic, parabolic is two curves together in one building. One is curving downward, the other is curving upward. Combine together and become a strong piece of structure. Okay, you can explore this one. Last but not least, for my lecture, again, this one not yet explored by the architect lah, but it has been built in certain area in Europe or in US. They use pneumatic concept. Pneumatic is pumping air into Teflon or certain material, and when we pump the air become lighter and goes up, and it create the form that we want to use for the architecture lah. Okay, Zeppelin, the aeroplane, that one using hot air, it can fly. Is the earlier type of form using pneumatic structure. So actually, pneumatic is a kind of structure that yet to be explored further. I think the idea should be stronger, because if you see tire of vehicle, lorry, car, aeroplane, the tire that support the vehicles, is in the form of pneumatic. If the tire can support lorry, if the tire can support aeroplane, if the tire can support heavy machine, so it can be used for building structure. Okay, so that is the whole idea. Another kind of structure that haven't been explored yet by the engineers is using magnet. If you want to have a floating structure, if you want to have a floating building, you can have floating building on water. You can have floating building in the air by using magnet. Some experiments have using this idea, but not very sure whether the idea is later on transformed into usage building or not. Okay, I think that is all what I want to present today to students. Okay, if I can recap, the whole thing is that structure is part of architecture. Okay, structure is part of architecture, and students have to use the understanding of structure and express it in terms of architecture. Don't let the structure just like that. You have to use the structure as part of architecture, and when the structure is part of the architecture, try to express it, because roughly, the cost of the structure in a building, it's quite expensive. It is about 1/4 of your entire building. If your building costs 4 billion, for example, 4 million, for example, the cost of the structure is about 1 million. So don't just spend 1 million and you cannot see it, because the structure is in the form of column, is in the form of foundation, the thing that we cannot see underground. Kita tak nampak, jadi kita simpan. Column pun kita seal as part of the wall, tak nampak, dan kita simpan. Rugi, because we have spent 1 million for the building, for the structure, and yet we cannot see the structure. So that is the whole thing that I want to deliver today. Hopefully you can get the idea, express your structure. If not the entire building, use the expression, if not for the entire building, at least in front of the building as a welcoming features, But if you can incorporate for the entire building, it's much better. Okay, I think that is all. I am open to any question. If you have any question, please ask me.
I think the students should have some questions. We were having one debate exercise, and we are talking about between the aesthetics and the structures. Where are the teams? Wouldn't you want to ask some questions? They have quite a nice sections where they, it's like a debate kind of settings, and they will question one another on that, like, which is a better approach. Any question from the student? No.
Hopefully you understand
Yeah.
lecture question. Suraya, how are you? I can see. Hey,
I'm fine, doctor. Can I ask?
Sure.
yes,
Um, when you create like a pneumatic structure, right? How, because it's very light, so how do like the architects and the engineer cater for environment where the wind is very strong? Like how do they like prevent the structure from falling apart?
okay, before they want to finalize what kind of structure they use, of course they have to consider many things lah. If it is feasible to use pneumatic system for the structure for that place, and we have to consider the wind as well. And if you see, one of the things they have to consider is they have to design aerodynamic lah. Aerodynamic one, that is to easy the flow of the wind. The other thing is to make sure the cable that hold the music structure is strong enough lah. In our mind, in our mind, we see pneumatic structure ni macam balloon, macam benda ringan. But actually, it's a heavy building, If you push the building, it doesn't move. Dia nampak macam ringan saja, tapi actually it's heavy. So Raya, hopefully I can give some light to your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The rest of the student? Everything is clear?
So saya berharap sangat bila you design, tolong incorporate structure as part of aesthetic. Sebab apa, bila you buat, I know student when design building, they want to have nice form, nice architecture, but then the expression tu dia loose because dia tak ada ingredient yang nak ditunjukkan. I think you can use structure. Structure is one of the things that you can express, and your building become nice. And your building become wow because of the nice structure. Not sekarang banyak architect try to put cladding, cladding around the building, nice cladding, nice feature. I don't quite subscribe to that one, because cladding is just mere sometimes they want to hide at a certain place. Itu okay lah, dia tutup toilet, dia tutup tempat-tempat yang cantik, ataupun post sun shading, it's okay. But sometimes the location of this cladding, dia not appropriate lah, So kalau structure, you can use certain part, you can use it lah.
Normally, if they were to do all these organic and free form, it will have to rely a lot on software, right? Like Revit, to help them to assist with all the constructions.
Yeah. They have for the engineers, they use finite element application, finite element.
Okay.
How many students in all third year is it?
Third year, we have close to about 58. But today, the one that's on my attendance list is only 55.
60 now. I can see the attendance.
Yeah, some late comer.
Hi, doctor. I have a question.
Annie, how are you?
I'm fine, doctor. I have a question. In your opinion, right? What matters the most to you, like the aesthetic, the form, or the structure? Like before you design something, would you always think of the structure first, or does it come hand in hand?
Okay, thank you for the very good question. To me, function is number one. Make sure the building function well. But in the end, you have to incorporate together with aesthetic. Okay, you have to incorporate with landscape, and you have to incorporate with interior as well. Function, of course, number one, function. But in architecture, it comes in one package. You must not neglect, as I mentioned just now, you must not neglect lighting, you must not neglect comfort, you must not neglect the things that you learn in architecture. It comes in one package, Ani. So sometimes, if you too much focus on the form, you have a very nice form, but if you go around the spaces within the form, many of the spaces may be negative spaces, but to me it's a waste it's a waste of material, it's a waste of cost. So architecture come in one package lah, together with structure, together with landscape, together with interior. It come one package. Okay, Ani?
Okay, doctor. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. But sometimes it's also depending on your design styles. Like if you could look at Zaha Hadid or some others architect, their direction sometimes is slightly toward to one. And of course, as architects as a whole, we can still it is our duty to make sure the building works, the building's form is nice, functional well, everything. But you could emphasize slightly, based on your design style, um, your design strength. Yeah. Yeah, actually, the student point out a lot of things during the debate, and yeah, I also pick up a lot of things from them too. Like for examples, like the Fan Gallery buildings at the one that you have shown.
Yeah.
Where is it? It actually received Fan Gallery building Bilbao. It actually received court case because the panel itself is too reflective. So yeah, it caused a lot of accidents around that area. Yeah, so they also raised that issues during the debate, saying that when it's too expressive, sometimes too at once, sometimes it caused problem. I think it's never the architect's intention to have that, but sometimes when we go slightly over, or we design slightly non-conventional, there are actually a lot other things we need to look at. Like nobody thought of this could be one of the issue, but it happens. And the student also point out like the dancing building at MIT, because it was like so the function follow forms, and it caused a lot of because the building is in such organic dancing form, and it caused a lot of like services failures, like the rainwater couldn't be discharged properly, a lot of other things, and MIT started suing the architect. Yeah, so it was quite an interesting section between the students to understand how each and everything works together.
So again, it support my idea that the function is number one, the priority.
True.
The rest make your architecture complements. The rest complements your architecture.
Yeah, definitely. How many buildings that you have visited out of all that you share? I mean, when I go through that,
many.
Oh, many. Oh, maybe come. Yeah.
Calatrava, Richard Rogers, Zaha Hadid in Korea.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I go through all these photos, the things is like, wow, when am I gonna be there to look at it ourselves? So, student, if you are gonna, I think sometimes when you are there, looking photos, understanding. Sometimes to architects we have this advantage because prior we visit, we will do a lot of research. And then we know what to see when we are there, okay, we're going to check out these details. This photo, I couldn't see or everything, so I'm going to be there to check this out. So it is really, really fun. Like you go through all the lectures here, understanding all the building. And I really appreciate that, how you share with us regarding the expressive structure by giving us examples. It's really good so that students could really look at it. And then when you go to that particular building, then you know what are the things you're trying to look at. And I always hope that, by looking at all these photos, the students don't spend your money on the boba tea or whatever thing. Keep it so that you could travel after the COVID-19 things ended. So it really helped you to open up your minds. Like when I've been to the Zaha Hadid building at the Korea. Yeah. Can't remember the name all of a sudden. The design building. Then at that particular point, when I stand at the road levels, I know I can see how the design intentions in drawing in the pedestrian to the buildings. It create a kind of mystery feeling that it direct you to one end, and then it direct you to another end by using this human eye level view. So it's very interesting because you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see that through the internet. It's only after you've been to that place and started to explore it yourself, then you started to see how this architect trying to use the route, and then using the route to attract all the passerby to the buildings. Yeah, that's very interesting. So we have one question here.
Okay, there are many nice, great architecture around us nearby. Like for example, Singapore. Or if you want to go further, you can go to Hong Kong. If Dubai is just within 6 hours flight next time, So there are many around us. And if you go to Japan or Korea, also within 6 hours. Okay, here question from Natasha. I have a question. If you keep designing boxy design, does it still give a meaning to a place? Yes, of course. Okay, Natasha, if you want to study more about nice boxy design, you study about Mario Botta. Mario Bata at one time, he came to our UTM and give a public lecture. We invited him. So Mario Bota. So he liked to use geometric form architecture. He used circular, he used box, he used a triangle. Actually, you can use very simple form, but then it has more meaning to a place. Yeah, Dong Denim Design Plaza.
Yeah. I just found. Yeah.
Natasha, don't worry about crazy for curvilinear. Actually, if you ask me between the curvilinear form or fancy organic and simple geometric, I prefer simple geometric because you can, after the building function very well, you can after that you can pick up which one you want to highlight for your architecture.
Yeah. Of- yeah. Boxy building, want it or not, when you started to practice as an architect, most of your buildings are boxy, okay? Because, when you compare your structures, the boxy building is going to be 600,000 and the not boxy one is going to cost double of it. Your client will look at it, oh, please go for the boxy one. So as a basic for an architect, you have to understand how you deal with all this boxy design. So, you don't look at it as a downturn, don't look at it as a disadvantage that you couldn't explore your design because it's a boxy form. But you still look at it like, out of all these things, how could you still give a meaning to it? Yeah, I think this is the main task given to us. Okay.
Aida ada sini tak, Aida? Aida, how are you?
Aida Nafisa, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her. Just for your information, Dr.
Yes,
Sani.
doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you understand my lecture?
Boleh lah. Okey lah.
Yeah.
Kena ni lagi. Cuma doktor, saya nak tanya macam mana kita nak improve kita punya fasad design if I just cakap betul-betul teruslah. Saya punya design kali ni I choose to make a hexagonal kind of like form. So I just thinking how can I beautify the building so that it don't look too nampak kita panggil nampak penuh.
Okay. If your building is hexagonal, maybe you can use framework structure macam apa tadi tu, Hong Kong and Shanghai ataupun dah lupa bangunan dia dekat IMP building dia ada buat dekat Chicago pun ada satu. I think you can use hexagonal framework, diamond bracing framework for your architecture. It's not like ordinary vertical and horizontal column or beam. And daripada tu you can express lah. Banyak yang gunakan this kind of idea. And dia incorporate dengan you punya hexagonal building lah. Itu saja yang boleh komen lah.
So maknanya kalau hexagonal is better research tentang diamond bracing framework lah.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I'm not very sure. Maybe it works for your building.
Oh.
Are you repeating all the diagrams, hexagons within your building?
Yes, it is macam look. It's more like macam honey beehive punya look, macam repeated the same hexagonal shape, and then there are some part where I think they're 3-story height, the other one will be 4-story height, something like that. But then there are kita panggil dia dalam satu building yang sama.
Okay. Anyone need any more, design workshop? Design now become a design clinic. It's okay. For your information, Dr. Sani now is clearing his leave, right?
Yeah.
Yes, clearing his leave and will be officially retiring in March 2021. So yeah, grab your chance, if you want to get more extra information and knowledge from him. I think that he will still be around. Like the good things about this is that now we have COVID, and we are definitely on all these online virtual platform. So it doesn't matter, Dr. Sani is at Second Chance, New York or wherever place. We can still grab him. We can still grab him so long we have Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's the good
Yeah,
things
yeah.
about. I would say that that's the good things. One of the good things we see from this COVID-19, it break away all these physical boundaries for all of us. But I started to dislike online classes because this prolonged wearing headphone things really started to give me headache. After 3 hours of wearing the headphone, because if I don't use the headphone, I couldn't hear my student um, clearly. So I have to do that. But after 3 hours, well, I can feel the headache is coming in. That's the extra effects. Okay, so do we have any extra question around here?
Wah, Syukri Muhammad, you are in Tanjung Karang, not far from my house lah.
Any student from Sekinchen? No.
I'm from Tanjung Karang.
Syukri.
How far is it?
So later we can getting, doktor.
Boleh.
Can create face to face.
Ya, ya, ya.